The Smoky Hill River in April of 1860 was not a river. It was a force. Spring melt from the Rockies, combined with 3 weeks of thunderstorms across the central Kansas plain, had turned the normally manageable watercourse into a quarter-mile-wide brown torrent that carried entire cottonwood trees like matchsticks and made the distant sound of a freight train as it carved new channels through the floodplain. Tobias Creel stood on the north bank and watched the river eat the edge of his ferry landing. One more bite of red Kansas dirt disappearing into the brown water, the bank retreating yard by yard, his rope ferry straining against its anchor as the current tried to pull it downstream toward the rapids that waited approximately half a mile below the crossing. The rapids, a series of limestone shelves that produced a 12-foot drop across 100 yards, were lethal in normal conditions. In flood conditions, they were simply a place where the river stopped carrying objects and started destroying them. If the story of a ferryman who rowed a Cheyenne mother across a killing flood fascinates you, subscribe now. What a 3-year-old's lullaby does to an impossible river crossing will change everything you think about courage. Tobias was 38 and had operated the ferry for 9 years. He'd crossed the Smoky Hill in every condition the Kansas climate produced. Drought, when the river was ankle-deep and the ferry scraped bottom. Late summer, when the current was gentle and the crossing took 4 minutes. And flood, when he closed the crossing and waited because the river decided who crossed and who didn't. And in flood, the river's decision was no.
I closed the crossing at dawn, tied the ferry off, put up the sign, closed, flood, and sat on the bank waiting for people who would arrive anyway, read the sign, and ask me to cross anyway. Human beings are not good at accepting the word closed.
Jedediah Parks arrived first. A settler with a wagon, 2 mules, and a wife who was not speaking to him. A condition that appeared to predate the flood. Parks read the sign. Parks argued. Parks offered double the fare. Tobias declined. The river was running debris, logs, fence posts, dead livestock, and any one of those objects hitting the ferry at current speed would snap the rope or capsize the platform. Closed was closed. The Cheyenne came at midday. White moon, 26, carrying a 3-year-old girl wrapped in a blanket on her back, accompanied by Standing Elk, her brother. They had walked 6 miles upstream from their camp, looking for a crossing. Every fording point was impassable. The ferry was the only option within 60 miles. The child was sick. Tobias could see it, the small face visible above the blanket wrap, flushed with fever, eyes glassy, breathing with the shallow rapidity that said the illness was serious. White Moon stood at the closed ferry landing and spoke to Tobias through Standing Elk's translation. Tobias said no. He said no the way he said no to everyone during flood stage. Clearly, firmly, with the professional authority of a man who knew the river's capabilities better than anyone alive.
The current is running approximately 8 knots. The ferry can handle 4. The debris field includes full-grown cottonwoods. Any tree that hits the ferry rope at this speed will cut it, and the ferry will go downstream into the rapids. Into the rapids means death. I am sorry about your child. I will not kill all of us to attempt a crossing that the river has closed.
Jedediah Parks, overhearing, added his opinion with the particular generosity of a man who had been denied the same crossing and was now watching an Indian receive the same treatment.
Man said closed. Even for white folks it's closed. And if it opened, paying customers go first. I've been waiting since dawn.
Standing Elk translated Parks's words for White Moon. White Moon's expression did not change. She had survived, as a Cheyenne woman, 26 years on the Central Plains, which meant she had survived smallpox epidemics, cavalry attacks, forced relocations, and the daily experience of white men's opinions about her relative importance in the human hierarchy. Parks's statement registered the way weather registers, something that happened in the air, irrelevant to the ground. White Moon looked at Tobias, not at Parks. She looked at the ferryman with the focus of a person who has identified the decision-maker and will not waste energy on anyone else.
My daughter's fever rises. I have felt fevers like this before. Children who have this fever for more than 4 days, some of them die. We are on day 3. The healer who knows this sickness is on the other side of the water. You say the river will not let us cross. I say the river is water. My daughter is blood. Water does not decide what blood survives.
Tobias heard the argument. He understood its emotional weight. He also understood physics. 8-knot current, debris field, a rope ferry rated for 4 knots. The mathematics of the crossing were not subject to emotional appeals. White Moon sat down. She did not leave. She sat at the ferry landing with her daughter on her lap and waited. The particular waiting of a person who has made a decision and is simply enduring the interval until the other person arrives at the same decision. Tobias watched the river. He watched the woman. He watched the child. Small, feverish, wrapped in a Cheyenne blanket. The face of a 3-year-old who did not understand any of the adult concepts surrounding her. Flood, danger, fair, refusal. And understood only that she felt bad and her mother was holding her. They launched at 3 in the afternoon, when the current had slowed fractionally. Not enough to make the crossing safe, but enough to make it possible, which was the best the river was going to offer. Tobias checked the rope, checked the platform, distributed the weight. Himself at the stern sweep, White Moon and the child in the center, standing elk at the bow with a pole to fend off debris. Parks protested. Tobias ignored him. The protest was not about safety or fairness. The protest was about precedence, the frontier belief that whiteness conferred priority. Tobias had been operating the ferry for 9 years and had established exactly one rule of priority: severity. The sickest crossed first, the healthiest crossed last, and skin color did not enter the calculation. They pushed off. The current hit the ferry like a hand, a flat, immense, irresistible hand that seized the platform and pushed it downstream toward the rapids. Tobias leaned on the stern sweep, digging the blade into the brown water, fighting for angle. The rope sang, the particular high-pitched vibration of hemp under maximum load, the sound that preceded either holding or snapping. Subscribe when a 3-year-old's lullaby becomes the only rhythm standing between a ferry and the killing rapids. The moment a child's voice outweighs the river will redefine everything you know about the cost of love. Standing elk fended, a cottonwood branch 6 feet long, spinning in the current, heading directly for the rope connection. He caught it with his pole and deflected it downstream, the impact nearly knocking him off the platform. The ferry lurched. White Moon tightened her grip on the child. The child, Blue Morning, 3 years old, fevered, held against her mother's chest, did something unexpected. She sang, a Cheyenne lullaby, the kind that mothers sing to feverish children at night. The rhythmic, repetitive melody that provides comfort through pattern rather than meaning. Blue Morning's voice was small. The voice of a sick 3-year-old is not a powerful instrument, but the melody was clear and steady and rhythmic, a 4-beat pattern that repeated without variation. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Tobias heard the rhythm. His sweep strokes, chaotic, reactive, fighting the current without pattern, shifted. Unconsciously at first, then deliberately, he synchronized his poling with the child's song. Da-da-da-da, sweep left. Da-da-da-da, sweep right. The rhythm transformed his effort from panic to cadence and cadence, as every sailor, every oarsman, every human being who has ever worked against water knows, is the difference between fighting the current and navigating it.
The child sings. The white man rows to her song. The river does not calm. The river does not calm for anyone. But the man's arms find the pattern. The song gives his arms a mind they did not have.
Both are right. The river was dangerous. The child's song did not calm the river. The river remained 8 knots of lethal brown force. The song calmed the ferryman. It gave his panic a structure. It gave his muscles a rhythm. It gave the crossing a heartbeat. The song and the sweep and the current aligned. The ferry moved, not smoothly, not safely, but forward. They made the far bank in 11 minutes. The crossing normally took 4. The additional 7 minutes spent in the brown, debris-laden current with the ropes screaming and standing elk fending logs and the child singing, 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 were the longest 7 minutes of Tobias Creel's life and the shortest of white moons, because terror stretches time for the person working and compresses it for the person praying. The ferry grounded on the south bank. Standing elk leaped to the bank and hauled the platform secure. White moon stood, the child still singing, the lullaby winding down now, the repetitions slowing as the need for rhythm ended, and stepped onto dry ground with the particular deliberateness of a woman who had just crossed a river that had tried to kill her and her daughter and had failed. Tobias sat on the stern sweep, breathing. His arms were shaking, the muscle exhaustion of 11 minutes of maximum effort poling. His hands were bleeding, the sweep handle had abraded the skin. His heart rate was somewhere north of 160. He could feel it in his temples, in his throat, in the particular vibration behind his eyes that said his body was running at capacity and would like to stop now.
I said the river decides. The river decided no. We crossed anyway. The child sang and my arms found a rhythm and the rope held and we made it. I was wrong. The river doesn't decide. The river is water. It doesn't decide anything. The woman decided. The child's song decided. I decided. We decided together. And together we were stronger than the current.
White moon carried blue morning 6 miles south along the riverbank to Owl Eye's camp. The medicine woman, old, experienced, carrying the pharmacological knowledge of Cheyenne healing tradition, treated the fever with preparations that Tobias would never know the names of, and the army doctors at Fort Riley would never acknowledge the efficacy of. The fever broke on the 5th day. Blue morning survived. Tobias crossed back, alone on the empty ferry, using the child's rhythm. Da-da-da-da, humming it to himself, his sweep strokes falling on the beats. The return crossing took 8 minutes. The rope held. The river was still in flood. The flood had not diminished. The ferryman had increased. Both are right. Tobias's professional judgment, too dangerous to cross, was correct. The river was dangerous. The crossing could have killed all of them. White Moon's maternal determination, my daughter's life outweighs the risk, was also correct. Both truths occupied the same 11-minute crossing. The risk was real. The love was stronger. Parks crossed the next day when the flood dropped to 5 knots. He paid his $1. He did not mention the Cheyenne woman. Tobias did not mention her either. Some crossings do not survive translation into casual conversation.
Subscribe for more stories.
Subscribe. There's more Ranchers' Honor stories where love outweighed every calculation. More frontier tales where the smallest voice carried the greatest power. And more chronicles where the Wild West's most dangerous crossings were navigated by the people who refused to accept the word impossible. Ferryman rowed Cheyenne mother across flood. Child song calmed the killing current. The current was not calmed, the current was survived. The tool of survival was a lullaby, 4 beats, repeating, sung by a feverish child. Both are right. The river is lethal and love is sufficient. The child knew both simultaneously, the way only children and the sacred know things, without the need to choose between them.